Today, MMA is a global phenomenon. The UFC fills arenas, sells millions of pay-per-views, and turns fighters into international superstars. But it wasn't always this way. In fact, MMA was once a fringe sport, banned in many states, labeled human cockfighting. So, how did the UFC change all of that? This is the story of how the UFC revolutionized the fight game and changed MMA forever. UFC 1 and the birth of modern MMA. The Ultimate Fighting Championship began in 1993 as a one-night tournament with one simple question: which martial art is the most effective in a real fight? No gloves, no weight classes, no rounds, just raw, unregulated combat. Enter Royce Gracie, a skinny Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert who shocked the world by defeating fighters twice his size using technique over power. UFC 1 changed the game, but it was just the beginning. As the UFC gained popularity, it also drew criticism. Politicians like Senator John McCain called it human cockfighting, leading to widespread bans and the sport being pulled off TV. The early UFC was chaotic, no weight divisions, no gloves, and few rules. But that chaos forced a transformation. Under pressure, the UFC introduced rules, weight classes, and a commission-regulated structure. What was once a spectacle was now a sport. First UFC glove designs. In 2001, the UFC was bought by Zuffa LLC, led by Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta and a young boxing promoter named Dana White. They brought in professionalism, structure, and, crucially, TV deals. The Ultimate Fighter reality show in 2005 was a turning point, and the Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar finale captivated millions and proved MMA could be mainstream. With new exposure came new icons: Georges St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, John Jones, and eventually Conor McGregor. The UFC went global, holding events in Brazil, Canada, the UK, China, and beyond. MMA was no longer an American niche, it was an international empire. Today, MMA is almost unrecognizable compared to its early days. Fighters are now true mixed martial artists, trained in striking, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu from day one. The UFC helped shape a sport with unified rules, athletic commissions, drug testing, and rankings. It's not just about who can fight anymore. It's about who can win in every aspect of the game. Of course, the UFC hasn't been without criticism. Fighters' pay, monopolization, unionization efforts, and promotional favoritism have all been points of contention. But even with its flaws, the UFC remains the most influential MMA organization in the world. The UFC didn't just change MMA, it created modern MMA. From bare-knuckle chaos to a global sport, it redefined what fighting could be. Love it or hate it, the UFC's influence is undeniable, and its legacy is still being written. With new superstars being made regularly from places like Russia, a place bursting with talent is churning out new superstars all the time, and many other countries all over the world, producing talent and keeping the sport fresh with new champions and contenders to draw people back to watch and buy pay-per-view tickets.